Welcome to Mr. Kenny's Ancient History class. Today we're going to be looking at the growth and decline of the Roman Republic. I hope you guys enjoy. Lots of great stories here. Let's begin. Alright, so we saw last time we had the Punic Wars, and Rome conquered the greatest Mediterranean power the world had seen, the Carthaginian Empire. So Carthage was gone. Now there's nothing to stand in Rome's way of dominating the Mediterranean Sea. It all began, of course, with them controlling the Italian peninsula and then going and winning the Mediterranean after our Punic Wars. In fact, the Mediterranean Sea became as Mare Nostrum, meaning our sea. Sometimes people joked calling the Mediterranean Sea a Roman lake. And one of the things we're going to find with Rome's conquests are they're going to become the Roman citizens, the people originally from Rome, which eventually got passed on to other Italians, as we can see over here in our list, and then everyone else. And we're going to see how that goes and takes an effect. Here's just a cool picture from our battles with Carthage. We remember Hannibal. He brought his war elephants through the Alps, and it was a terrible, terrible war, but Rome managed to persevere. This weapon right here is particularly cool that we see, this spear-looking thing. It's called a pilum, and the pilum was neat because, like I said, the Romans were masters of war, and we see how it has the pointy end, the spearhead, a narrow shaft, and then gets wide again. The whole point of the pilum was to actually throw it, and it would go through the enemy's shield, and of course the enemy would probably be like, nah, it didn't get me actually, but the pilum would bend, so then it would be stuck in the shield. So then the Roman says, well, now you don't have a shield, and of course there's a second pilum, or of course the short sword gladius, to finish the job. So what happens because of all this expansion? Well, the rich are going to get richer, and the poor are going to get poorer. You see, a lot of those farmers are Roman soldiers, and they'll go off and they'll fight wars to protect Rome, to defend Rome, and then they come back, and then the landowners say, well, where are the taxes you owe me? Where are the crops you're supposed to pay? He says, well, I've been fighting for the Roman Republic. And I say, well, that's not going to cut it. So lots of times the small farmers, the Roman soldiers, had to sell their land, usually at a significant loss, to pay the rich landowners, the patricians. And they started having these huge estates called latifundia, which if we were still in class, I'd always make a joke when we did our vocabulary. That's the most fun word we have, the fundia. But actually they weren't fun. It was huge estates owned by them. So we have a ton of people who live in the city who do not have a job. Eventually, those people are going to almost entirely be supported by the Roman government. They would give them their food and everything. Another thing that's going to happen, as they conquer more land, they are going to capture slaves. When we talked about our Punic Wars, or the Third Punic War, every single Carthaginian that survived that battle was sold into slavery. We're going to get to a point where 2/3 of the city of Rome's population are going to be slaves. That's right. So think about it too. We have all these people who don't have jobs and they don't have any work. And why would they have work when Rome has so many slaves to do the work for them? We're going to see that Greek culture is going to become even more popular during this growth of expansion, which makes sense because they're going to conquer some Greek lands. Things like bathing regularly became really popular, and it was very Greek to do. So as we see the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, it's going to create some issues. Now we're going to have two people try to help this. We're going to have the Gracchi brothers. Now, Tiberius Gracchus is going to become a tribune, and he's going to see how those farmers who went off to fight for the Republic were then being mistreated, how those farmers who bled for Rome lost their land. And so what he wanted to do was he wanted to take some of the land from the rich and give it to the farmers, which if Lydia has 1,000 acres of land, and we say, okay, Lydia, now you're going to have 900 acres of land, and take that 100 away, and then give each farmer 10 acres of land. That helps 10 people a lot, and probably Lydia won't notice the difference. But of course, the rich did not like this. The Senate was scared that, well, if the people love Tiberius Gracchus so much, they might not listen to us. So the Senate convinced an angry mob to kill Tiberius. Gaius is going to become a tribune after Tiberius is killed and basically do the same plan of trying to help the poor of Rome, and once again the Senate is going to incite mob violence to kill them. The Senate, the people supposed to be protecting and keeping Rome, killing those trying to protect and keep the regular Roman people. Later on in history, we're going to get a guy named Gaius Marius. He's going to be a general. And he sees all of these unemployed people without land, and he says, well, how can I capitalize on this? How can I help them? So he says, I'm making an army just for me, a private army, and anyone can join this army. You don't have to have a certain amount of land like the Roman legions first did, and after this war, I will go and give you land. So people join. And here's the thing, though. This army was loyal to Gaius Marius, not to Rome. So when we have another person doing this, Lucius Cornelius Sulla, he does the same thing. He says, I will give you land if you fight for me. So once again, this army is now loyal to Sulla. Now we have two powerful people with their own personal armies. Can anyone predict what is going to happen here? Well, civil war. And it's kind of terrible because Sulla was actually once part of Marius's army. He was a trusted lieutenant. But they differed. You see, Sulla liked the old ways of having the rich stay in power, whereas Gaius Marius really truly seemed to be, he's helping himself, but he's trying to help the Roman people as well. And this is a horrible, horrible, horrible civil war. Now, neither of the men were innocent. Gaius Marius served as consul 7 times, and the legend goes, of course, that he found an eagle's nest with 7 little eaglets in there to represent his 7 times. And if you remember, from what we talked about with the Roman Republic and the rules, it's pretty illegal. But anyways, after Sulla defeated Marius, and really Marius dies of old age, Sulla is going to kill thousands upon thousands of Romans. Everyone related to Marius, except one guy, insignificant, Julius Caesar, maybe you've heard the name, winds up falling under Sulla. He would put something called a proscription list. The proscription list would basically be a list of people that were considered, quote-unquote, enemies of Rome. And these enemies of Rome were to be killed and their land confiscated. And this is one of the ways that Sulla gave land to his soldiers, rewarded his political allies, is because he killed his enemies and took their stuff. And people would get rewards for bringing the head of this person or that person. And these lists would be posted every day. And you might be a Roman senator and you might go look at the forum and then see, wow, your name is there. More problems. Now, what happens is Sulla basically made sure that the poor would stay in weak positions while the rich patricians of Rome would maintain their power. So the plebeians stay down, the patricians stay up. And this is going to wind up increasing more poverty. There are going to be more people without work. We're going to have more people starting private armies to try to help us. Remember, private armies are not a good thing because that army is not loyal to Rome. It is loyal to the general. So, people have less money, there are more people without jobs, and food becomes more expensive. Then, on top of this, I talked about how there are so many slaves. Well, a man named Spartacus leads a slave revolt. So you see, as Rome grows, they have that, saying more money, more problems. Well, more land, more problems. And they really do. Spartacus is going to go and ravage the Roman countryside. And the Romans will send a legion, and Spartacus's army defeats them. In fact, Spartacus is able to control almost all of southern Italy, and Spartacus is able to leave. He can do it. He can get on some boats, escape, and bring freedom, but he thought of all of the other Roman slaves in the north, and he marched north, where then a man named Pompey will go and defeat Spartacus. And what happened is then 6,000 of those slaves were executed. They were executed by crucifixion. They lined the Appian Way. That was the main road to Rome, with the crucifixes of these slaves as a message to any slave to never rebel. And owners of slaves would go and have their slaves go march through the Appian Way to see the horror. So we just mentioned Pompey. Let's bring him up. Now, Pompey is going to be one of these men who is going to wind up becoming very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. He is going to clear the pirates out of the Mediterranean Sea. He's going to put down revolts. He's going to conquer lots of land. And he's going to make the same promise that the other generals did. Fight for me, I will give you land. But the Senate says, we're not letting you do that. Uh-oh. Now, I made a mistake. I said that Pompey was the man who conquered Spartacus's revolt. It was actually Crassus. I apologize. Crassus was the wealthiest man in Rome, always joked about. And he became wealthy with not so great ways. First off, he was a big proponent of the prescription system I mentioned in Drusilla. He would turn many of his former Roman friends in and kill them to go get their stuff. Also, he had a private fire department. And so let's say that Jax's building is on fire. Well, he would go and his men would come and with Crassus and he'd say, I'll buy your house for you. And you'd say, what? My house is on fire. He says, I'll buy it from you. But he would offer only a little bit. Like, let's say your house was worth $1,000. You'd say, I'll give it to you I'll pay you $100. And your house is burning. There's nothing you can do. And so you say, sure. And then, snaps his fingers and then the fire department comes and puts out the fire. Now you're out of house and Crassus now has more property. All right. So funny story with him. There's one more person we need to talk about before we end our lesson today. And it's a man you may have heard of before. His name was Julius Caesar. Now, he was Marius's nephew, and for some reason, when Sulla was killing Marius's family, he spares Caesar. We don't know why, and history would be very different if he hadn't. Now, he becomes a consul, and he has so many military victories. He conquers the Gauls. He writes a book about it. The Gallic Wars, and he does some pretty amazing things. Alesia, he is surrounded by perhaps 200,000 Gauls, and he has 40,000 Roman soldiers. He's surrounded, and he manages to get around and encircle this larger force and defeat them. It's incredible. He is a wunderkind, a wonder child. He is a master. And so we're going to see a little bit about what's going to happen with these three figures very soon, probably tomorrow. So I want you guys to please think about what could our situation be. We have three powerful men, all military leaders, private armies in our Roman Republic. Think about what's going to happen. Have a great day. I miss you guys. Like, subscribe, share. It helps me out. See you later. Bye.